After a few quite testing months in 2025, we finally come to a period of blessing, of ease and harmony. May 2025, I have good news for you. We went through Mars, Venus, Mercury retrograde, 2 eclipses, Saturn, Venus conjunctions, very intense influences in the last 3-4 months. But now we're gonna take a breath of fresh air and relief. As you can see, most of the transits and aspects between planets in May are harmonious, trines, sextiles. There are here and there a square, but it's very minimal compared to what we've been going through. We're like a soldier coming out of a battle. And we'll be in the month of May, we'll be recovering, recuperating, improving. Things will start looking up. We're out of the hardest period of 2025. So with this good news, we're gonna have a full moon in Scorpio with opposition with Uranus around the 12th of May, which might be a bit more excitable, unpredictable, intense, like the energy of Scorpio, but pretty much everything around it is fantastic. But the biggest event in May is that towards the end, on the 25th of May, Saturn is moving to Aries for the first time since 29 years, the 1995, 6, something like that it was then. In Aries again, and it will stay there for 3 months this year, and then 26 and 27, the whole 2 years it will be in Aries. So this video will focus on how Saturn, the bad big wolf of astrology, how you can tame it, how you can turn it into a loyal dog that will guard your back and to thrive through this period. So stay with me to see how Saturn will affect you. Actually, if you want to really dive into Saturn in Aries, I've created a 3-hour video plus around 40 pages PDF that covers absolutely every possible influence of Saturn in Aries. Say if you have Venus in Gemini, Saturn will try sextile it, or if you have Libra, Jupiter, Saturn will oppose it, or if you have Cancer, Moon, Saturn will square it. What are the influences on a personal level with many real life stories and remedies and how to overcome it and how to do the best out of it. Just $12. Check it out. I always try to be as affordable as possible. But now let's begin. I'm excited. Virgo, Sun, Moon, Rising, May 2025. Virgo, as you can see, most of the planets are above here. If this is the horizon, your Virgo, it's above on top of your horoscope. So there is more visibility there. There is more action, activities. Jupiter is in your 10th house, very good period, moving direct in regards to your career, to move ahead with projects about your career, about your goals in life as well. There is a lot of action. Venus is going to be in your 8th house, healing emotional wounds, or if there were some complications with money or resources coming to you from others. You can even receive presents from others, or support or emotional support from others as well, or tax payback, for example, money and support that comes to you from others. Venus really helps it there this whole month, moving direct. And also for intimacy is better, Venus healing this 8th house if there was any intimacy issues as well. And receiving some rewards from maybe other people's money, finances, or help from them. Ask for help and you'll receive. Mars is in your 12th house in Aries. So, you might need more time sometimes, kind of like to rest. Or you might feel like your sleep is a bit more restless, because this is the house of sleeping, and Mars there in the 12th house. Either you have more violent dreams or more sexual dreams sometimes as well, or just more active imagination, more active, your inner world is more active this month because of Mars in the 12th house. And also there might be some kind of clashes with hidden enemies, Yeah, but I don't see Mars doing hard aspects to other planets much this month. So it's more, let's say, maybe doing something more, because Mars is where energy goes, doing something more privately, putting more energy into research, putting more energy into relaxation, like traveling maybe. 12th house can be connected, being more active abroad, something like that. But overall, the other big event is the full moon in your third house. It happens on the 12th of May and it's opposite Uranus. So this week around the 12th of May and after that till the 18th can be much more social for you. It's in the third house, communications, talking. You might find out some secret Scorpio information about people in your life, friends, relatives, siblings, or you just might have more interactions with them. There might be some sudden developments there because of Uranus opposition. Also, there can be some, you have your plans for the day, schedules, but there can be some surprises in the middle of the month that kind of throw off your schedule a little bit. Because third house is about us planning, organizing, managing as well. They can be more excitable, deeper emotional communications with people, more intense, to connect on a deeper level emotionally around the 12th till the 18th, let's say. Or if you're working on some project connected to writing, to speaking, to media, to reports, to business, anything that uses writing or speaking, or AI project or social media or internet project or business projects is the third house. It can really kind of, you can get some ideas there, or it can escalate, or you can have a focus on it, or see the results of such actions around the middle of the month, or maybe some short trip as well. Third house rules short trips, that is activated, that is accentuated for you. Maybe with family, full moon. All right, but the really big event I wanted to focus, because everything in May is nice, except the full moon that is a little bit more intense and emotional with Uranus, but otherwise there's so many good positive sextiles, trines. For some of you it might even mean like it's uneventful, for others it might be like finally coming back to normalcy. I'm feeling so much easier, or things are happening with ease and more gentle. But the big event, and you have to, put this video in favorite, so somehow save the link so you can come back to it in the next 2 years. Because Saturn is moving into your 8th house and will stay there just till September now, from the end of May 25th till September. So you'll get to feel a little bit of the energy of Saturn in your 8th house, but the full energy of it will come in 2026, 2027. Both of those years, Saturn is fully into your 8th house. This is actually good because Saturn is moving away from opposing you. So a lot of Virgos will challenge over some time over the next 2.5 couple of years. Earlier born Virgos, further back, later born Virgos, maybe tough time they've had this year, last year. Saturn opposing your sign. It's not easy. It's challenging. It shows you things that don't work. It puts a lot of pressure on you. But now Saturn, who's moving away, is not going to directly aspect you. And even though it's going to the 8th house, they say Saturn in the 8th house is tough. To be honest, it's much easier than Saturn directly aspecting you, directly making an aspect to your sun, moon, or ascendant. Definitely. I had Saturn opposing my moon, and I got so sick. I got like stomach issues, immunity issues, and at work problem. And then Saturn moved to my 8th house, and I've been so much better from the moon over the last 2.5 years. It's been way more easier unless you have planets there, or unless Saturn is going to be, if you have planets in Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, and Aries, Saturn will be squaring or opposing or conjunct them. Then this 8th house will be felt very strongly. And if you have planets in those places, say in Libra, in Cancer, Aries, or Capricorn, then check out my Saturn in Aries webinar. It's 3 hours where I speak about those transits and what it means for you, and combine it with the meaning of Saturn through the 8th house that I'm talking here. But I really go in depth. There is just $12 for this video, and you can use it for all transits of Saturn throughout your whole life, But anyway, Saturn in the 8th house, I can tell you, but from my 8th house, Saturn did not aspect anything from the 8th house, from the moon. So I went through it pretty easy. There was just like a bit of a decrease of the mutual finances that we have with my partner, because 8th house is finances, mutual finances with partner. There was some, but because they didn't make any hard aspects, there were no big concerns. It's just like our mutual finances went down like 1/3 or 1/2 than normal, but still very well to do for us, very well to live for us. But it was nothing, this eighth house is this mutual finances. So if you've invested in something, we had big investments in something, eighth house like the stock market investments, and it just didn't move basically. Sometimes it can take a dip with Saturn as well. And for us, it's kind of was no movement, Saturn. So, but also you can invest with Saturn in the eighth house in something long term. So something that will not give you immediate results with the stock market now, but maybe in 7, 8, 5, 6 years. But for now, they might be a bit stagnant. Eighth house Saturn there can also, on the material level, can represent having to, for example, support a partner, or having to, that they're going through something either financially, emotionally, but it's not such a big issue. I had a friend who just went through Saturn in the eighth house from the ascendant, and both of their spouses, they were struggling financially. That was what I saw, and they were like worried because of that, but nothing intense, nothing extreme. Sometimes it's also about Saturn through the eighth house overcoming some kind of grief, and Saturn helps you heal gradually, slowly. It kind of freezes the grieving process almost, so it doesn't come at once for you, because it can overwhelm the nervous system when a grieving of something maybe comes, and it freezes it slowly to eke out so you can process a trauma, because eighth house rules traumas, deaths. So someone bankruptcies. I'm not saying you're gonna be going through that, don't worry. I just went through Saturn through the eighth from my moon. It was pretty nice, compared to the 7th through the moon. But sometimes, if Saturn is making hard aspects from this eighth house, they can be the most severe manifestations of the eighth house, which, as I said, like divorces, bankruptcies, or big transformations in life and changing careers. Definitely, I've seen Saturn, when Saturn transits, Saturn is work, duty. Transiting the eighth house is transformation and change in the direction of the career, for example. And this can mean that you have to change your and usually when you do a career change, when Saturn transits the eighth house, is long lasting. When you always, over the next 2-3 years, you can do a career change, but it will be long lasting, so don't worry. Plus Saturn for Virgos rising people or sun or moon, it rules positive houses. It rules the 5th house, so it's kind of it's not such a troublemaker. And ruling the 5th house, for some of you as a Virgo, it can mean that your life transforms, 8th house, because of a child, for example, because of conception, Saturn in the 8th, or that your life transforms, or maybe that you need to secure some finances, 8th house, because of a business project, 5th house ruler, or some work. Maybe you, in a partnership, you're investing something or money, you have to tighten up the belt because of a child, as a couple, or because of job, you want to invest in some job or some work, into some project, or might be repair project as well. The 6th house is anything to do with repair, with job, with work, and or because of errands, because of responsibilities and duties that kind of you need to tighten up the belt a little bit financially, specifically for you, Virgo. That's what I see. Either a child or creative project or business project somehow. Also, Saturn in the 8th house. Let me think. So there is definitely the energy here. The ruler of the 6th work in the 8th house, changing, transforming your work possibly, or certain aspects of your work, and transforming also your romantic relationships. Saturn rules for Virgo the 5th house, going into the 8th house. There can be some intense romantic entanglement, for example, that you have to work on. But that's, a lot of very different possible manifestation. So you might be looking for sponsorships, 8th house is to be sponsored, to find investors about a project that you have, or a job or idea. 5th house rules your creative ideas, your divine inspired ideas that are unique, and that you might be looking for sponsorship from that. And Saturn in the 8th house says you need to do the hard work, but it doesn't mean you're not gonna receive those resources from others. But you need to, like, to really prepare well, to have a very good plan, and then you can secure with Saturn in the 8th house, whether it's a mortgage, whether it's 8th house rules money from banks, from investors, from resources. And it might be connected either with your some work project or some work responsibilities that you can secure money from others, or some creative ideas that you can implement, and possibly even the resources and help of others you can secure with Saturn in the 8th house, but you need to put the efforts there. On another level, Saturn in the 8th house can be, as I said, a period during which you are slowly healing through some traumas. Might have been childhood traumas that you haven't processed. So Saturn allows you to slowly untangle those things, those blockages, those emotionally unresolved past issues, to grieve it out, to release it eventually. I've seen people with Saturn in the 8th house that maybe a parent died even like 5-6 years ago, and then they're only able to process it when Saturn is in the 8th house and think about death and these topics of the 8th house, life after death, such matters. Also, the 8th house is the house of taxes. So when Saturn transits your 8th house, be very lawful about how you pay your taxes. Also, you can decrease your taxes, because Saturn can make something smaller. You can find ways, but you have to do it in a lawful way, not in a dodgy way, because Saturn punishes anything that is not lawful, that is not according to the rules. So be honest there, but also you can find, like, you can downsize anything to do with taxes, decrease them. And if you're doing some dodgy stuff, there might be the punishing effect when it comes to not only taxes, but with other people's finances and resources. If you're doing dodgy stuff with that, if you're like gold digging and being with someone intimately just because of some security or finances or something else, then these things will be exposed with Saturn in the 8th house, or they will backfire in some way, or you'd have to change that in some way. But if you for example are so taxes, you might streamline them, automate that process of those unpleasant topics. 8th house is inheritances. Saturn in the 8th house, there might be like a prolonged situation of receiving some inheritance, a situation with that. I don't know how it will come about. I hope no one dies, but Saturn 8th house is the house of death and birth. So it can represent births of babies and deaths of people, not your death, don't worry. Deaths of maybe elderly people. Saturn rules the elderly. And that's also as a consequence to do with inheritances and so on. For me, nothing like that happened with Saturn in the 8th house. No deaths, no births. But I was helping financially someone and family, because I was asked to help like people financially. A lot of people came to me with financial troubles. 8th house is other people and other people's resources, and I'm Saturn because I'm ruled by Saturn in the 8th house anyway. But I was asked to help a lot of people, to help them have when they were in difficult situation. So Saturn is about paying back to others as well. So some of you might be about paying back others, helping others back. And do whatever Saturn asks you. Don't think like, why am I punished? Why is this? If you help others in need, because 8th house is also disability, you're paying off your karma. Your good things will come to you eventually. I'm trying to say that. Saturn in the 8th house is fantastic time to really deepen your understanding about your motivation, psychological issues, so working on a lot of traumas, releasing them, and anything that has control over you. I was able to release something that I've been obsessed over for years with Saturn in the 8th house. I realized gradually, little by little, with efforts, I untangled how I look at those things that control me. Obsessions, addictions can be sometimes. And I was able not to face these monsters and those fears and to overcome it psychologically. But you only see the results towards the end. So 2027, 2028, you're more likely to feel like, okay, now I've overcome something that was a big monster for me, a big thing that was tying me. 8 houses, obsessions, addictions as well can be to basically the traumas, because the obsessive energies and addictive energies go where our traumas are. So you slowly work through some of your traumas and healing them there, and the results will come towards the end. Because the higher vibration of Saturn is detachment. So it can allow you by the end, it's finished with the 8th house, to be detached by a lot of compulsive behaviors, a lot of controlling, or if someone is controlling you and has more control over you, to overcome them. So there you go, Virgos, a lot of interesting things. But yeah, on the more material level, you might be budgeting with the partner, saving for something, to invest in something, or because 8th house is connected to all of those things, or working on some project together. So thank you very much.